two lightning-caused fires burned more than 55,000 acres and is 8% contained. Evacuation orders are up in some areas. Jane Cagle with California Incident Management says parts of the fire are inaccessible.
We're talking anywhere from 50 to 100-foot flame links. We cannot be putting our resources in there. However, we are working that actively with fixed-wing aircraft that's putting retardant out, as well as helicopters that are using water bucket drops.
Fire officials, though, say air was so dry that some of the water dropped by the aircraft evaporated before reaching the ground. The fire is rushing northeast from the Sierra Nevada forest region after doubling in size in only a few days. Rescuers at the site of a condo, Miami, found the bodies of more victims overnight. 86 people are now confirmed dead, 43 remain potentially unaccounted for. And as NPR's Joe Hernandez reports, authorities also say they closed the county courthouse for emergency repair work.
As the recovery effort continues in Surfside, Miami-Dade officials also announced they closed the county courthouse to the public after an inspection revealed issues with the building. Miami-Dade County Mayor Daniela Levine Cava.
We know there have been problems in this building, so this one was elevated, and some structural concerns were identified, some columns that needed to be, some support work that needed to be done.
Cava said court staff had only been back in the building about a week after working remotely due to the pandemic. She said the building closure would not substantially impact court operations. Joe Hernandez, NPR News, Miami.
Texans are weighing in on new GOP-backed voting legislation. Critics argue will place unfair burdens on voters, especially people of color. Texas Public Radio's David Martin Davies has more.
This is the second attempt this summer by the Republican-controlled Texas legislature to pass a massive bill that will change how Texans vote. The most controversial elements, cutting Sunday morning voting hours and allowing a judge to throw out an election without evidence of fraud, are gone. Texas Senator Brian Hughes, a Republican, says his bill will strengthen voter integrity.
Unfortunately, this one has become bitterly partisan. It's become fashionable to say that Texas is the hardest state in which to vote, and that's just baseless.
Texas was ranked as the most difficult state to vote in a recent published study. A previous voting restriction bill was blocked when Texas House Democrats broke quorum, and they're not ruling out another walkout to block this revised bill. I'm David Martin Davies in San Antonio.
And you're listening to NPR News.
Authorities in Haiti are still investigating the assassination of President Jovenel Moïse. The president was gunned down inside his own home early on Wednesday. His wife Martine was also wounded in the attack. Haitian officials say they have a group of suspects in custody, mostly Colombian nationals, but also 2 U.S. citizens. However, members of Haiti's political opposition are casting doubt on the official version of events. The news from Haiti this week shocked many Haitians living outside the country. That includes Jimmy Jean-Louis, an actor and activist who works to raise awareness about Haiti around the world. He told us he was devastated when he first heard the president had been killed.
I just couldn't believe that Haiti would have to go through another period that we're living right now. So I'm completely speechless. It's an act of violence that is so devastating.
Haiti has faced multiple challenges in its modern history. There was the earthquake in 2010 that killed more than 200,000 people and displaced millions. But also there are hurricanes, widespread poverty, and corruption. And a political system that has struggled for stability ever since the country emerged from decades of dictatorship under the Duvalier family. And Jimmy Jean-Louis says you can go even further back to Haiti's independence from France in 1804.
From the very beginning, from the time that Haiti got its independence, 20 years later, Haiti was forced to pay a debt to the French people, which lasted up until 60 years ago. So all the money that Haiti was making was going straight back to the French people. So when they stopped that debt, which was back in 1950, that's when we started to have problems in the country. So that's when the Duvalier came on power. So the Duvalier stayed for about 30 years, and then we thought that maybe getting rid of the Duvalier would bring Haiti to the different era and a better era. But no, it didn't happen. And that was it. And Quebec, and of course, as you know, the devastating earthquake.
Since 2010, it's been more of the same, he says, dashed hopes and political uncertainty. Even before the president's murder this week, Haiti's various political factions were already arguing over who should be in charge and when new elections should be held. Now Jean-Louis says he's worried about what happens next.
And we still have a lot of political oppositions that are still fighting for the power. So we know all that people don't know what to do anymore. They are scared. They still don't know how to get out. The level of insecurity is worse. So I don't know where we're heading.
That was Haitian actor and activist Jimmy Jean-Louis talking about the uncertainty facing Haiti after this week's murder of President Jovenel Moïse. As you may already know, NPR is celebrating its 50th birthday this year. And to celebrate, we've been asking listeners to share the lessons they've learned in a half-century of life. Hundreds answered the call.
Okay, so my name is Elizabeth Grammel. I'm almost 56 years old.
My name is Bill Hamlin.
Tony Jones.
Carl Cola.
Christy Thompson. I live in Lisbon, Portugal.
One of our listeners, Sonia Bovio, wanted to share an epiphany she had in recent years.
I don't have to win to be happy. I don't have to be the best always. I don't have to be right always. And I would say it's definitely late 40s, early 50s when that finally hit me.
It's a lesson that came to her from the internet, of all places, while engaging in one of her favorite pastimes, looking at cat pictures.
I've been a Tumblr user for a while, and it's always been kind of my happy place. And I just have a few...
As vaccine rates increase, many Americans are increasing their spending, especially discretionary spending. Hiring is up at retail stores, restaurants, and hotels. And after 16 months of on and off lockdowns, it's easy to feel like a kid in a candy store. For NPR's Life Kit, Lauren Magaki has advice on how to rein in that spending and stay on budget.
Tiffany Aliche had been working as a teacher for nearly 10 years when the school she worked at closed.
So I had no job, I had a mortgage that I could no longer pay. I took all the money out of my retirement account, sunk it into the house, still lost it to foreclosure.
This was over a decade ago, during the Great Recession. A lot of folks lost their jobs, but Aliche had grown up with a dad who was an accountant and CFO. She had a savings account and prided herself on being good with money.
I'm one of 5 daughters, and so my dad...
Lasting joy, not just clutter.
I have this little sticker on top of my computer.
Yeah, can I get a Son of Baconator combo small with a chocolate frosting?
Anything else?
No, that's it.
That'll be $9.91.
Thanks.
Noodle budget. For some people, it's peanut butter and jelly budget. For some people, it's rice and beans, right?
A no-frills budget can help you weather those times without digging into savings or ending up in debt. Finally, create a savings plan. Set up a system that automatically moves your money to your savings account. And try not to think of saving for big things, like retirement, as a chore.
So I have named my future self. Her name is Wanda. Wanda is 70 years old. And I think to myself, it is literally my job now as Tiffany to take care of Wanda.
Aliche says doing this makes saving for the future more fun. Imagining her sassy herself.
Would you like your receipt?
No thanks. Thank you.
Lauren Magaki, NPR News.
Across the country, certain areas are experiencing devastating surges in COVID-19 cases. Southwest Missouri is in the midst of one, and that's where we're going to begin today's program. Cases have more than tripled since May as hospitals reopen COVID units and add ventilators in an effort to tame an outbreak that health officials say was completely avoidable. They point to low vaccination rates in places like Greene County, home to Springfield, Missouri, where less than 40% of the population has had at least one vaccination shot, and that's the highest county rate in that corner of the state. Dr. William Sistrunk is lead infectious disease physician at Mercy Hospital in Springfield, Missouri. That's one of the hospitals overwhelmed with COVID patients right now. And Dr. Sistrunk joins us from Springfield. Hello. I'm good, but I understand that you had to reopen COVID units these past weeks and that hospitalizations continue to rise. So can you start by telling me what you're seeing hospital right now?
Right now, our hospital census is up to 129 patients with COVID, with 29 of those patients in the intensive care unit, and 27 of those patients requiring ventilatory support.
And how does that compare to the last peaks of the virus that you've seen there? For example, this last winter. Is it a similar type of patient as well?
Well, actually, back in December, late December, was our peak during the winter at about 113 patients. At that time, we were seeing mostly higher risk patients, but now we're seeing more younger patients. We actually have 3 children in the hospital that we currently have 129 with a lot of those patients below 60. So we're seeing a younger population being admitted to the hospital, and they're also requiring more intensive care treatment than we have seen before.
So I'm wondering what you're seeing and hearing around your hospital right now as more patients come into the ICU, for example, from their family members. I do understand that the overall vaccination rate in Greene County is under 40%. I mean, do you get a sense that this surge might be prompting skeptics to go out and get the shot?
We have seen it within Greene County, an increase in numbers of people being vaccinated over the past 3 or 4 weeks, as we've seen our numbers in our community and in our hospitals continue to increase. So I think that just having more patients contracting COVID in your community has led to an increased number of people wanting to get vaccinated. I think we were all hoping that we wouldn't see COVID much this summer, but it is definitely not the fact here in Springfield, Missouri.
Right, yeah. And like you said, almost all of those hospitalizations are among unvaccinated people. So I am wondering how you feel, having cared for COVID patients for the last 14, 15 months, just knowing that this was avoidable.
Well, this is an illness that once you get sick, you can be ill for a long period of time, and it can lead to very severe illness. And so we really focus on prevention. All of the healthcare workers really across the country, and Springfield is the same as we've heard reports from many other communities, is that the healthcare workers are working very hard, and we know that not all of these illnesses can be preventable by vaccine, but most of them can be, and everybody's working hard. We're all here, we're dedicated to our community, and we're dedicated to getting people better. But everybody's getting tired, we really are, but the spirit here is still very good. We're all working together as a team, and we're all working together to try to get the word out so people will get vaccinated more, and so it won't lead to such severe illness in our community.
Are you concerned about burnout among the workers at your hospital?
Well, I think that burnout is a real issue. The healthcare workers who are so dedicated to caring for these patients that are so ill, but this is continuing. We are not seeing a light at the end of the tunnel yet. We're all trying to help each other out and trying to work together as a team and care for each other. But I think that everybody needs to realize that taking care of COVID patients day in, day out is very, very taxing on everyone at the hospital. Burnout is very real, and we're all paying close attention to it because this epidemic is not over. We're in the middle of the marathon, and we've got a long way to go before the finish line.
That was Dr. William Sistrunk, lead infectious disease physician at Mercy Hospital in Springfield.
Traveling again, but where'd it go? Well, this summer, NPR's international reporters are exploring captivating places that explain a lot about the countries they cover. It's a travel series we're calling Wish You Were Here. Today, in a real hardship assignment, NPR's Frank Langford travels across London searching for the soul of the British pub.
I'm beginning my journey right here on the south bank of the River Thames. It's like a mile and a half downstream from Tower Bridge, and I'm at the Mayflower pub. And the reason is because there's this really long and rich history right here, not just for Britons, but Americans too.
So the Mayflower were pulled up here at high tide, and 65 people with their possessions would have moved on board.
This is George Daly. He wrote one of the first Mayflower, which started its voyage to